First question goes to Kelly Malone, Canadian Press.
What do you have to say to your own former Finance Minister, Bill Morneau, who was and remains vocally opposed to the changes to the capital gains inclusion rate?
This budget is focused on fairness. Reality is, for far too many young people, for far too many millennial families or Gen Zers, the dream of home ownership is getting further and further away every year, no matter how hard they work, no matter the side hustles they pull together. Rent is taking up a huger and huger part of their monthly budget. And the idea of setting aside to be able to save up for a down payment or eventually being able to get a mortgage seems further and further out of reach. That's why with this budget, we're bringing back fairness in the system for young people. And we're doing it by asking people who are the absolute wealthiest in this country to contribute a little bit more. I understand for some people this may cost more if they sell a cottage or a secondary residence. But young people can't buy their primary residences yet. That's why we're moving forward with initiatives that are focused on making the system work better for young people. Because the promise of this country has always been that every generation could succeed even better by building on the hard work of previous generations. But young people today don't have, no matter how hard they work, the same opportunities that their parents and their grandparents and previous generations could take for granted as just coming in this country. That's why we're doing something bold to change the math for young people. It means investing massively in new supply of housing, which, yes, building more affordable homes, building more affordable rental buildings, but also doing things like saying if the young person is spending $2,000 a month on rent, the fact that they pay it on time every month, that should count towards building a credit score so they can eventually go to the bank and say, look, I'm a reliable payer of my bills. You can give me a mortgage, and a better mortgage than you'd otherwise be able to give me. These are the kinds of things that changes the system. And I understand there are those who've been very, very successful off the way the system used to be, who don't want to see the system changed. But this is about intergenerational fairness. It's also about making sure our economy succeeds into the future. Young people right now make up the largest part of our workforce, and if they don't see paths to success, it's the entire economy that suffers. So we're going to stay focused on building a fair economy for every generation.
Follow-up.
What advice would you give Canadians who want to show public solidarity with Palestinians, but fear being associated with the sort of rhetoric that has been called hateful, which was expressed at the protest Saturday in Ottawa?
Look, it's really, really important that Canadians know that they are free to express themselves, free to protest, to make sure that they are highlighting things they believe in or things that they are concerned about. That is a right that Canadians need to always see defended, and this government always will. However, we have laws against hate speech, against incitement to violence, and we expect police to do their jobs and make sure those laws are enforced. Because fundamentally, including all the rights to protest, all the rights to free speech, nobody should feel unsafe in their communities, in their community schools, in their places of worship, and that's something we will continue to stand for.
En français, s'il vous plaît.
Okay. Je pense que c'est important de souligner tout d'abord que la liberté d'expression, la liberté de manifester pour partager ses préoccupations, son désaccord avec un gouvernement, avec des enjeux internationaux, est essentielle pour la liberté de notre démocratie. Les gens doivent se sentir libres de parler, de partager leurs préoccupations. En même temps, on a des lois contre l'incitation à la haine, l'incitation à la violence. Et par rapport à ça, on s'attend à ce que nos services de police s'assurent que la loi soit suivie. Parce qu'au fond, ce qu'on doit s'assurer, c'est que tout le monde se sent en sécurité dans leur communauté, dans leur lieu de culte, dans leur quartier.
Prochaine question.
Dans le cadre de votre promesse de rachat des armes à feu de type militaire, Que pensez-vous du fait que Post Canada, qui livre donc déjà les armes à feu, refuse de les récupérer?
Tout d'abord, on a pris cet engagement parce que les armes de style assaut, les armes de style militaire, n'ont pas leur place au Canada. On ne fait pas de chasse avec un AR-15. Et on ne devrait pas non plus. Et donc, depuis 4 ans déjà, ces armes d'assaut sont illégales au Canada. C'est illégal de les utiliser, de les acheter, de les donner, de les vendre. Et ça fait depuis 2020 qu'on a fait ça. Mais par désir d'être équitable, ceux qui ont acheté ces armes il y a longtemps de façon tout à fait légale devraient pouvoir être remboursés pour cette arme qui est maintenant absolument inutile. Donc on est en train de regarder et de travailler avec différents partenaires, dont différents services de courriel, différentes institutions, pour pouvoir s'assurer que ces gens qui ont ces armes-là soient récompensés, soient compensés pour cette arme qu'ils ne peuvent plus utiliser. I think it's really important to remember where we are. For 4 years now in this country, it has been illegal to buy, sell, use, or give a military-style, assault-style weapon in this country. That's 4 years that we have said it's illegal to use the kind of weapon that was built for the battlefield, not for hunting. We did that. That's the situation right now, right across the country. However, the people who legally and legitimately purchased those weapons before we brought in the ban on assault-style weapons now have something that they spent good money on that they can no longer use in any way, shape, or form. So as a government, we're saying, no, we're willing to compensate you for that, and we're working out the details on that compensation. That's what this is about. The ban on assault-style weapons is in place, has been in place for 4 years, despite the fact that the Conservative Party has said if they form government, they're likely to bring back the legality of assault-style weapons. We are going to do everything to make sure they remain illegal and that people be fairly compensated for something they bought back when it was perfectly legal to do so. And we'll work with a broad range of partners.
Suivi.
Est-ce qu'à ce stade, votre programme est menacé, ce programme?
Encore une fois, le cœur du programme, ça a été de bannir les armes de style assaut. On n'a plus le droit de les utiliser au Canada. Ça, c'est ce qu'on a fait en tant que gouvernement. On est en train de créer un programme pour pouvoir compenser ceux qui ont acheté ces armes de façon légale. Et je sais que ces gens-là sont peut-être très impatients d'avoir de l'argent pour qu'ils puissent aller s'acheter un nouveau fusil de chasse ou une arme parfaitement légale qu'ils vont pouvoir utiliser. Et on a hâte de pouvoir les compenser. On travaille avec des partenaires pour pouvoir le faire.
Next question.
Some Indigenous groups raised concerns following last week's budget that it was not enough to close the Indigenous infrastructure gap that the government had promised to close by 2030. With a $9 billion investment, some estimates saying it could be in the $400 billion range to close the gap. At this point, do you think that goal can be achievable by 2030? And if so, what do you say to groups who are concerned that it may not happen?
Oh, we know there is an awful lot more to do. Reconciliation is going to be the job of decades, if not generations. But there is also real urgency to close the gaps as quickly as possible on housing, on education, on healthcare. These are on opportunities for investment and economic activities. And that's why we have invested tens of billions of dollars more than any previous government in Indigenous reconciliation, in economic partnerships, in opportunities for people in Indigenous communities to thrive and succeed just like everyone else in this country. Yes, we put forward $9 billion in investments, in housing, in education, in economic reconciliation, in healthcare. But there's always going to be more to do for the coming years, and we're going to continue to step up in the real partnership that is at the heart of reconciliation.
Follow-up.
No follow-up.
The Canadian Medical Association says the proposed changes to the capital gains taxation will affect doctors' retirement savings, and in turn it could affect recruitment and retention of physicians. Are you willing to make changes or exceptions for doctors?
Someone making capital gains has to make more than $250,000 in capital gain profits to start to see the new changes of inclusion from 50% of capital gains to 2/3 of capital gains being included in their tax rates. We just don't think it's right that a student or an electrician or a teacher be paying taxes on 100% of their income, while others have the opportunities to use accountants and pay taxes on only 50% of that income. This is about fairness. This is about the fact that in order for people to succeed across this economy at all generations, we need young people to succeed. We need young people to be able to buy homes in the coming years. We need young people to be confident of the future that's going to have opportunities for them to build a family and build a future the way they want to. So yes, we are asking the most successful in this country to do a little bit more to make sure that everyone can see themselves in the success of this country. And that's something that it bewilders me a little bit that the Conservative Party is standing against. It was very clear over the weekend that they are not in favor of asking the wealthiest to pay a little bit more to create success for young people. I think that's wrong. Because the one thing that matters most to all Canadians, regardless of where you live in, regardless of what your background is, regardless of your approach or your abilities in life, people expect this country to be fair. And it's fair to ask those who've succeeded extraordinarily well to be there to make sure that a lot more people have the opportunity to succeed in the coming years through their hard work.
Next question.
The parliamentary budget officer has said that there could be some collateral damage from this policy, like older Canadians who have an investment property as a pension. What do you say to those who will be taxed at a higher rate when they sell that home, which was supposed to be their nest egg?
We know that, well, first of all, very clearly, this change to capital gains does not affect anyone selling their primary residence. That is extremely important to know. This applies to people who have investments that are making more than $250,000 in a given year. So it is generous to make sure that people do get returns on their investments. It's just instead of getting taxed on 50% of their capital gains, they'll now get taxed on 2/3 of their capital gains. But at a time when young people have started to give up on the dream of eventually ever being able to own a home, it was really important to rebalance the situation. It was really important to make sure that young people can see that all the hard work they're doing is going to build them a better life, an opportunity for the future, an ability to buy a home in the community that they work in. Too many nurses, carpenters, police officers, and teachers have to live far outside of our big cities to commute into the big cities to teach, to work, to serve there. These are things we're turning on, including with ambitious programs like the Canada Builds program, with the Housing Accelerator, with investments in infrastructure to build the wastewater and various housing infrastructure that will allow for more housing to get built. These are all things we're doing to build that strong future for young people, and I think it's only fair that those who've been most successful in the system be able to contribute a little bit more.
Next question.
Many organizations in Saskatchewan and local politicians are saying housing, addictions, mental health are requiring all levels of government to address. I'm kind of struggling to see a difference from previous funding investments compared to Budget 2024 measures. So how will the federal government ensure these investments make a true impact on Saskatchewan, seeing as our homelessness population, mental health, and drug addictions are at an all-time high?
Well, we just signed a historic agreement with Saskatchewan a number of weeks ago on healthcare, including addressing mental health and addictions. Last year, we put forward $200 billion in investments on healthcare over the next 10 years. And we're working with provinces across the country to make sure that that money flows where it's most needed. So that was last year's investments that, of course, roll out this year and over the next 9 years. So that's already significant support. On top of that, this year, significant investments in the budget to combating homelessness and to making sure there's opportunities for housing people who are dealing with a range of issues, whether it's mental health issues, addiction issues, or just the intergenerational trauma that so many descendants of residential school survivors are struggling with every single day. These are investments that we're busy making in partnership with provinces and municipalities to do that. But we're going to continue to push for more ambition, for more investment from all orders of government, because as much as the federal government can do, we can't do it alone, which is why we're encouraging provinces like Saskatchewan and municipalities to look for ways to unlock more public lands, to build more homes, particularly supportive housing for people who have particular needs, and make sure that affordable housing stock is increased so everyone can see themselves in secure long-term housing.
Next question.
What do you say to farm families because of the capital gains rate going up? What do you say to farm families who are now facing a bigger tax bill trying to pass down the family farm to their children?
We made a number of changes over the past years to make it easier for farm families to pass along their farms to next generations. At one point, it was easier and less expensive to sell your farm to a perfect stranger than to pass it on to a son or daughter, and that was wrong. That's why we actually made those changes a number of years ago, and we're going to continue to make sure that it is fair, because fairness is at the heart of this budget and our approach to government, and we're going to be there to support farm families as they do the extraordinarily essential work of putting food on tables of Canadians right across the country, and indeed increasingly feeding the world. Okay. Nous allons toujours s'occuper des familles en agriculture. Nous reconnaissons à quel point il y a des défis particuliers aux familles qui livrent la nourriture pour le pays et de plus en plus pour le monde, et on va être là pour travailler avec eux.
Last question.
You were here in January of last year at Vital Metals, and back again this year. Last year you did not have a chance to meet with Premier Scott Moe, and this year there's no plan to meet with him again. I know he's been wanting to meet with you to speak about the carbon tax, so why no meeting this time around?
As we always do, we let the Premier's office know I was coming to town, and they said that's good. We don't need a meeting right now, or they weren't able to organize a meeting right now. That's fine. I'm always happy to talk about the fact that we're putting a price on pollution right across the country that puts more money back in the pockets of families in Saskatchewan. 8 out of 10 families across the country in regions where we've put in the price on pollution actually do better off with the price on pollution, because we price pollution and then we send the Canada carbon rebate checks to families across those jurisdictions, and low-income and middle-income families almost entirely do better off. It's $1,800 this year for families in Saskatchewan, a family of 4 in Saskatchewan, which is more than the cost of the price on pollution that we've put in. So this is a way of both fighting climate change, fighting the droughts and forest fires that are more and more regular because of extreme weather events linked to climate change, but also putting more money in families' pockets with a check that just last arrived on April 15th last week, that is helping families with the costs of everything from food or fuel to rent, whatever it is that they're spending on. That money shows up from the federal government. And I will add, despite the disagreement I have with the provincial government here in Saskatchewan on them not wanting to pay the federal government what is owed, the Canada carbon rebate checks going to families in Saskatchewan will not be impacted by the government of Saskatchewan's decision. We're going to continue to deliver the Canada Carbon Rebate to families right across Saskatchewan, despite the fact that Premier Moe is not sending that money to Ottawa right now. Canada Revenue Agency has ways of ensuring that money that is owed to them is eventually collected, and we have faith in the rigorous, quasi-judicial proceedings that the Canada Revenue Agency uses. Okay. Je veux encore une fois souligner à quel point d'avoir mis un prix sur la pollution qui redonne plus d'argent aux familles moyennes à travers le pays et la façon de lutter contre les changements climatiques et les impacts néfastes des événements météorologiques extrêmes qui sont de plus en plus communs, mais aussi pour aider les familles avec le coût de la vie à un moment où chaque dollar peut aider. Les familles en Saskatchewan, une famille de 4 va recevoir 1800 $ cette année. Le dernier chèque de la remise canadienne sur le carbone a été livré juste la semaine passée, le 15 avril. Et ça fait une vraie différence dans la famille des Canadiens. Et je veux vous assurer que malgré le différend actuel avec le gouvernement du Saskatchewan où le premier ministre Moe ne veut pas envoyer l'argent dû à Ottawa, nous allons continuer d'être là pour les familles en Saskatchewan. Nous allons continuer de livrer la remise canadienne sur le carbone aux familles en Saskatchewan parce qu'on sait que les coûts des changements climatiques sont réels pour tous. On va continuer d'être là pour les gens à Saskatchewan, même si le gouvernement de Scott Moe veut créer de la chicane.
Ceci conclut la conférence de presse. Merci tout le monde.
Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Bonne journée.